Hey y'all, welcome back to my shop. I recently did a video on hand plane basics for just your average woodworker, and have a friend, Donnie, down in Mississippi who just turned in his CNC machine and decided to replace it with a bunch of hand tools, including a beautiful new Wood River 4.5 bench plane and some new chisels. These are great tools. Can be used for a wide variety of things in your woodworking. But none of them really work unless they're sharp. So sharpening is one of these sort of sub-skills within the larger realm of woodworking that's absolutely critical to learn, master, and employ on a regular basis if you're going to get the most out of your tools and get the most enjoyment out of your woodworking. So this is just going to be a short video on basics of sharpening. We're not going to go into flattening the soles of hand planes or any sort of drastic repair for plane irons or chisels that have been damaged. So we're not going to be taking off a lot of the metal. This is going to be geared towards sharpening tools that are already in pretty good shape, but you need to get that really nasty edge on them so that you can get the most out of your tools. So I hope you all enjoy. If you have questions, comments, or anything, leave them in the comment section below, or those of you who have my email address, my phone number, feel free to shoot me an email, text message, phone call, whatever. Let's get to it. One of the hardest things to figure out when you're just getting into sharpening and using hand tools in your wood shop is how do you know when you're sharp enough? Moreover, how do you know when your tool's so dull that it's time to resharpen? You hear a lot of answers on the podcasts and the TV shows and the YouTube videos and everything. People ask questions about problems they're having with a hand tool, and very often the answer is you're not sharp enough. Well, without having the physical sensation of working with a tool that's sufficiently sharp, how do you know as a beginner if you're sharp enough? Well, one of the things that you can do is you can work with end grain. End grain is because of the nature of wood, you know, a bundle of straws held vertically and all that. End grain is the hardest to cut, and if your tools are dull, end grain is really going to give you a hard time. So I have here just a regular Stanley Sweetheart 750 series chisel, a 1/2-inch chisel, and this one I know is sharp. If you can see the light reflecting off the very end of that chisel, you can see that this is one sharp tool. So I just want to show you what a truly sharp tool can do on end grain. And this nice piece of clear pine, if you're one of those people saying, well, yeah, I could do pine with a butter knife, stay in your seat, stick around, because we're going to move on to something a little harder here in a minute. So 1/2-inch chisel, end grain, hand pressure, no mallet, nice shavings. Goes right through it. Piece of cake. If you can do that on end grain, you're going to have no trouble chopping a mortise into the long grain, cleaning out your dovetails. Here's a gnarly piece of 2x3. One of the center cut ones with the nice little knot right here in the middle. Same thing. Right over the knot. Yeah. Sharp tool. Red maple. Or maybe you want to do the cowboy method and just shave with it. That boy's sharp. Alright, we're going to be working with the iron from my Wood River 4.5. Donnie, this should be familiar to you. This one gets a lot of work in my shop, so the edge requires some routine maintenance. This one's still sharp enough after a lot of use lately to still pass the will it stay on the fingernail test, but I've noticed enough of a decrease in performance that I just need to tune it up a little bit and get it back to the level of sharpness that I prefer. I do use a honing guide. Some people are real down on it. Well, you got to train your hand and you should be able to do this by hand and stuff like that. I mean, that's good. If you sharpen a lot, I'm sure that's a useful skill. I prefer, because I'm anal retentive, to make sure that my angles, that my bevel angles stay the same. And also, I don't like to work the entire bevel. You can see here only the very front is it has been sharpened. It's a lot less material to take off, and you're not cutting wood with this part of the bevel. You're only cutting right here, so there's no reason to sharpen this entire thing. I use a little trend system. It's 2 pieces, just the standard roller with the clamp. I like this one because it's got a little notch in the guide here, and the angles are marked, so you can drop it in here. It doesn't the roller doesn't slide around, and you can set your iron in, set your angle. This one we're going to do at 30 degrees. Tighten her down. Check, make sure that you're even the whole way across. It's important to keep this cut square between the edge of the iron and the cutting edge. Give it a little extra love, and then you're set to go. Now, I use Norton Waterstones. There's a lot of choices out there. There's oil stones, there's diamond plates, there's all sorts of stuff. I prefer the Waterstones because you lubricate them with water. They're easy to maintain, and they're pretty cost effective as far as the various choices out there. Sandpaper, you go through a lot of sandpaper. Diamond plates are really expensive, although I do have a diamond plate that I use for certain things every once in a while. The only thing with Waterstones is that as you sharpen, it's real easy to create a belly in the middle of the stone. And you can only get your irons or your chisels, whatever you're sharpening, as sharp as the stone is flat. So you got to make sure that the stone stays flat. So when you're about to do a sharpening session, or if you're doing a lot of irons and chisels and stuff like that, it's good to just flatten them up, make sure that they're flat. Now, a lot of people use this pencil trick where you put a pencil line on the stone, and then you take your flattening block and you make sure that you're getting the whole stone. Nice little trick. You can usually tell. I'm usually a little more low tech. I prefer the old ruler. Make sure that it's flat. Now, I'm not going to work on the 220 grit side of the stone because this iron just doesn't need it. We're going to start right at 1000 grit. Now, the first thing that you should start with is making sure that the back of the iron is flat. And you can see here, the only part I work is this area right here. There's no reason to flatten all of this. Now, you'll see some people that they put a little back bevel on it so that they're only flattening the very tip, and they have various tricks for it. They set a little ruler down on this side, and that raises up the angle so that they're just working the very edge. I find that a little too complicated for my limited brain power, and you can do this even while it's clamped in. You just start it out, put even pressure across, and you just work that end. Now, if you want to put a little back bevel on it, all I do is I just raise up the back here a little teeny bit. And then you check it. Make sure that you've gotten the whole way across. Now, I usually go ahead on the back and go up through the whole series. 4000. You don't have to press very hard. The stone is going to do the work. And you're just looking for swirls the whole way across. I don't usually use this setup here at my bench because as you can see it tends to make a mess, but with moving the shop around and the new shop sink, I don't have a bridge that goes across the sink that holds all of my stones yet. 8,000 grit. Pressure across the iron. If you want to put a little pressure on the back here to give yourself a slight back bevel, whatever rocks your boat, man. Got a nice polish on the sides here. You can see that means there's a little bit of a belly here, but as long as we're the whole way across at the very edge, we should be good. Again, you're not cutting wood with this part of the iron, you're only using this spot right here. Okay. Now, with the back prepared, it's time for the main event. The bevel. Now, because this is set at 30 degrees, that's the angle of my primary bevel. If I only want to get a little micro bevel down at the very end, it's going to have to come up some. So what I'm going to do is start on the stone and see where the swirl pattern is, and if I have to raise it up, I'll loosen this and adjust it just slightly until we get the angle that we're looking for. Now the trick with these is you got to make sure that it's the whole way up to the top, otherwise your angle isn't going to be true. And I noticed this right as we're about to get started, so I'm just going to adjust it, check it, on we go. I'm putting pressure on the outsides with 2 fingers and pushing the block with my thumb. Because this one's been set up before, you can see that the scratch pattern is the whole way across. You can see just a little bit of shininess left from the last time, but we get this nice dull scratch pattern the whole way across from this 1,000 grit stone. I think we're almost there. The other thing you can feel is just the bit of a burr on the back side, and when that burr goes the whole way across, you're ready to move on to the next grit. The other thing is you don't have to be too anal about back and forth and back and forth. You can, I mean, this is smooth enough. If you want to mix it up and give it a little circle, clockwise, counterclockwise, I mean, you can do that, man. Whatever you're comfortable with. As long as you're keeping even pressure on the blade and trying to make use of as much of the stone as you can, you're good. It's not complicated. Okay, burr is the whole way across. We're going to move up. I have the stone sitting over in the sink in just a tub of water. You should soak them for 20-30 minutes or whatever prior to sharpening. Keep them in the tub. I wouldn't recommend leaving them in the water all the time. It's good to take them out and dry them off, put them back in the cases. It's the 4,000 grit stone. You can see now the polish from the 4000, it's gotten out to about here and all the way to the edge here. So we got just a little bit more right here on the right side. Okay, we are almost the entire way across, just this one little corner. You can do that, that's okay. You put a little extra pressure on the corner, just try and work that corner. You don't want to do that too much because remember, you want to keep it square, right? You work down one corner. I mean, unless you're talking about a long plane where you want to put a bevel on the sides, and there are some irons where you want to do that. Okay, we're all the way across. The burr feels the same the whole way on the back. 8,000 grit. Nice polish whole way across over there. Just that one corner's being a little stubborn tonight. Yeah, this slurry on your bench, this is not the preferred method. There we go. We're the whole way across. Burr's the whole way across on the back. It's time to just take off the burr. And you do that, you don't want to break the burr because it's fragile. It's sensitive. It has feelings. So you take the iron, you flip it over, bevel side up. On your finest grit stone, 8,000 in my case, and you just want to gently, few swipes, take that burr off. And you can feel it with your fingers, even fingers that are calloused and can't feel anything. You'll feel that burr. Okay, we are sharp. Get the stones back in the water. Take this out. Now the last thing I do, and it's probably not even necessary, and before I did this, you know, I didn't do this, and my planes irons were plenty sharp, my chisels were plenty sharp, but I do have a straw. It's just a piece of leather mounted to a plywood backer, and you charge it with polishing compound. Bevel side down. Give it a few swipes. Maybe kind of hard to see on the camera, but that's got a real fine polish on it. I give it just a few swipes, holding it pretty flat on the back. And that's as sharp as you're going to get something, including a razor blade. Alright, let's see how we did. The chip breaker, you want to make sure the chip breaker is pretty sharp. It doesn't have to be as sharp as a plane iron, but because I'm pretty anal, my chip breakers are usually pretty sharp. Make sure you get all the water off. One thing I usually like to do is I like to spray this with some rust inhibitor, just to prevent, you know, stuff like this. But it's not necessary. A little paste wax does the trick. Put them back together. You want the chip breaker set back from the cutting edge just a hair. Few hairs actually. It's kind of something you can play with, and you'll notice the difference after a while. There's plenty of information out there about that. Oh. Boy, it's late. Just advancing the blade enough to where you can see that dark line come across the sole, and then you want to adjust the angle so that it's even across. You can see an even amount of that line across the sole. You don't want it sticking out too far on one end or the other, which is what this adjustment lever here is for. Alright, let's see how we did. Take a piece of this maple. Oh good, still has some burn marks on it from the saw, since one of my saw blades went on the fritz. Oh, it's got some nice nasty stuff here too. That'll tell us what kind of job we did. Pretty good. How about that? Yeah, I'd say she's sharp. Well, there you have it, boys. It's that simple. You know, you get yourself a set of Waterstones. Make sure they're flat. Make sure you keep them lubricated as you cut. Little honing guide, never hurt anybody. Helps to keep these clean, keep it oiled. Little angle block to make sure that you're keeping your bevel angles consistent. And you can do your plane irons. This one you can also do chisels. You just tighten the mouth down, put the chisel in, and same thing. Really no difference in sharpening between a chisel and a plane iron. Everything's exactly the same. Make sure you're getting a nice burr across the whole line, that you're getting an even scratch pattern the whole way across the blade. Make sure that you're not sharpening one side more than the others, which is going to throw your plane iron or your chisel blade out of square. And that's it. There's really nothing to it. So all the mystery that's out there, and the ruler trick and this and that and the other thing, I mean, it's fine, man. Have a good time. Play around with it. Really, the only way to do this stuff, it's like anything else in woodworking. You got to do it enough times. And if you sharpen a few times and you notice you're sharpening and your shit's just not sharp, you're not doing it right. But eventually you're going to figure out how to do it. This should give you a real simple framework you can follow. And if you follow it and you keep everything simple, you're going to get real sharp tools. And when you work with real sharp tools, that first time you do something, a cross grain cut or an end grain cut or something like that, and you say, damn, this thing is sharp. Or you start to cut the sides of your fingers, you get those woodworking scars of honor on the sides of your fingers and everything, or you slip and you jam one of these things in your hand, you're going to know it's sharp. So I hope that helps, folks. If you got any questions, like I said, leave them in the comment section. If you like it, hit the like button. If you really like it, hit the subscribe button. I don't put out a ton of videos, but at least that way you'll know when I do. And if you didn't like it or you have a nasty comment, well, you're going to leave it anyway, so there's nothing I can say. I'll see you all next time. Thanks for stopping by.